Welcome. I have Taye here, and I am speaking to him today about some mental health groups that he created on Facebook that grew really quickly. So today we're going to pick his brain and find out about those groups and if you want to join and support and things of that nature. So welcome, Taye.
Thank you. Thank you. It's definitely an honor. I appreciate you inviting me on your platform.
Of course. So tell us about those groups that you created. How many mental health groups do you have on Facebook or across social media platforms?
Oh, okay. It's primarily on Facebook. So the first mental health group that I started was the Mental Health for Black Men. It's a public group. It's about 90% black men and maybe 10% black women. It's a public group, as I said, but then I have a private mental health group for black men only. Um,
Okay.
and I have a mental health group for black women, but there are, it's a public group. Black men are in there. And I have a mental health group for black people. I have a mental health group for black LGBTQ. I have a mental health group for black veterans. And then I have another mental health group that's open to everybody. It's people from
Okay.
Indonesia, Europeans, Asian, you know what I'm saying?
You have to give me all those links and then we'll put them in the description. And if people want to join, they can.
Definitely.
So I think you invited me to your first group for black men and it grew really quickly, didn't it?
Well, it didn't grow quickly. I started it in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
so it's been about 5 years. But within the
Okay.
last year, it has grown quite fast. So I've been doing it for a while. So I started the LLC in 2018 called
Mm-hmm.
African Thought, and it's not necessarily just mental health, but it's like health and wellness, history and culture, and kind of bringing it all together. But the actual Facebook group I started around 2021.
And which one is your largest group and how many members is in the largest one?
Okay, so the largest group is the mental health for black men. So right
Mm-hmm.
now it's currently maybe a quarter of a million people, 250,000 people, and like I said, it's 90% black men. But it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that requested to get in the group. So I've been trying to take more time to filter. So it might be another 100,000 people, just waiting to
Mm-hmm.
get in. Honestly.
Well, tell us about some of the other things you do because I know I spoke to you before about your travel and your sponsorship of trips across the world. So tell us a little bit more about that and how you came up with the idea to do something like that.
Okay, okay. I'm a world traveler. I visited about 70 countries. I lived in Ghana for a year. I lived in South Africa for a year. I studied abroad in Brazil for a semester. I studied abroad in the Dominican Republic for a semester. I just love traveling. A lot of it is inspired by my love for history of Black people. When I think of Black people, I think of Black people globally. African
Hmm.
Americans, Latinos, West Indian, East Indian, Aboriginal, Indigenous. We got all these different names, but ultimately, I'm talking about dark skin, brown skin people. You know.
Yes. So thinking about your groups on Facebook, especially the first one, I know there's a misconception that men don't really open up and they're not always vulnerable when it comes to issues involving mental health. But being a part of that group, I saw that they can be really open. So, what inspired you to create a group like that?
Well, for me, like I said, for a few years, I was kind of getting into the health and wellness thing. So it's almost been a decade now, getting into the
Hmm.
meditation and the yoga and different things like that. But I noticed, after the pandemic, myself included, a lot of people were probably everybody. I would say everybody. I'm not an expert, I'm not a
Hmm.
professional, but I think every human has some type of mental health struggle at some point in their life. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's from something that's passed down. It could be genetic, or it could be self-inflicted. It could be drugs. It could be the death of a family member. It could be a marriage breakup. Everybody has a different breaking point, but COVID was the breaking
Hmm.
point for a lot of people. So I noticed the changes within myself, and not just having anybody to talk to professionally or family or
Hmm.
friends. I decided to start the group, And like I said, it started off kind of slow, and I think that the black women actually helped get the group to where it was at because they would invite their, they partner or they siblings or relatives, and then slowly but surely it just started growing. And we would do like every Sunday we would do like a group call with just the men only. Then we was doing meditation on Mondays, and Tuesdays we was doing something else, and Saturdays, I was just trying to get people to come out and get involved, and they was, it was good responses for the most part.
Mhm. So that came from a really thoughtful place then, because the pandemic was definitely a difficult time. And it's funny that I thought it was recent, but like earlier today, I told someone I couldn't believe it was 6 years ago. So
Yeah.
it does seem like just yesterday, but of course, that's something that's really needed. And I've been in there, I've seen some of the conversations. So, what are the groups like where you would get together and speak with each other?
Well, it depends. Like on Sunday, we may have like an open conversation. So sometimes
Mhm.
people would just have something on their mind that they want to talk about. But I try to be prepared, with a topic, and everybody will kind of chime in. But it's always like an open floor, and that's like a Zoom call. So some people may
Hmm.
show their face, they may not. But then we got a WhatsApp group where I wouldn't say it's a hotline, but people can start a phone conversation at any time. So somebody might call now, and within a few minutes, there's three people in there, there's six people in there, and they, by the time I get in there, they got a conversation going, So I just try to create different options and openings for, people to at least have a conversation at the minimum. Because people message me like every day, all the time. They just want
Hmm.
somebody to talk to sometimes.
That was a WhatsApp is a really good idea.
Hmm.
So, based on your observation, what is it that you think the men who are in your group struggle with the most? Is it relationships or breakups? Is it loss of a job, death? Like, what do you see a lot in those groups?
Man, like I say, it's a variety because it's just a part of the human experience. We go through so many things because you take for granted a person might have had a beautiful childhood. They might have had two loving parents. They might have been rich, or they might have, been successful and achieved all these things. But it might just be something genetic. They might not know, like,
Mm-hmm.
well, nothing happened to me, but I just been feeling some type of way, and I don't know if I'm the only person. I don't want to talk to just anybody. And then you get in a group, and it's like, it's multiple people that can relate. But, obviously relationship problems, that's one of the main
Mm-hmm.
things. People going through a divorce, or, the birth of a new child, or a breakup, or, and then like I say, COVID related, a lot of people lost loved ones.
Uh-huh.
Some people lost their entire family, you know what I'm saying? So, trying to figure out how to live life after something like that.
I know the posts that I have seen, there's usually a lot of comments on them. What is it about the group or where you think that men will post for strangers, but they may not necessarily be vulnerable with people that they're around every day?
I don't know. It could be a number of reasons. It could be pride. They just don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
embarrassed. The fear of being embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's somebody they know, they might be, feeling like that it might be used against them later. If they do it in a
Mm-hmm.
group with people that they don't know and it's all men, they might just feel more comfortable. Like, man, I dated this woman, she broke my heart, and this, that, and the third. But they might not tell they boys that, or they brother that, or they father
Mm-hmm.
that, or they mom that, for just different reasons. So I am glad that the group, does have that opening where people can talk about different things, and that's why I kind of created the other break off groups because
Mm-hmm.
like I say, we all not a monolith. So like I have
Right.
an LGBTQ group for people that might just want to conversate with people that can relate directly to what they going through. Because sometimes, we are human. So there's 250,000 people in the group. I can't control how they think and feel. I can try to
Right.
moderate, or people can report different things. So, or I have a black mental health group for Christians. Everybody's not a Christian, but most of our people that from America, they are. So they want to,
Mm-hmm.
intertwine their religion with their mental health, they have a place that's just for Black Christians. You know what I'm saying? But they always can go to the other groups if they comfortable. You know, and a lot of people don't comment; they just read and they
Mhm.
learn from it. You know.
Do you notice any big difference in the men's groups versus the women's groups?
Um, I do, but I'm I'm trying to figure out how to say it. And I think the thing is like women talk to each other more. Women talk a lot,
Hmm.
so it's like it's not as um it's not as a vulnerable situation. Like a woman could get on Facebook or call her girls, and be like, "Yeah, I just broke up with this dude. He did this, this, and this," and then just let it all out. You know what I'm saying? So to go into a group, I'm just assuming, it would be a similar situation where men, like I say, they're a little bit more prideful, a lot more prideful, they're a lot
Hmm.
more reactionary and emotional. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to have their feelings hurt or let people know that they are hurt, even if it's physical. They break their arm. You like, man, you got to go to the doctor, and then try to, as a man, you just taught to put it off. You taught not to cry. You taught not to be sad. Even when you should be. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I think like for the women is normal, and then for the men's group, it's something new. And then some of the reactions, like it seems like women know how to respond better to something that they don't understand than say men would.
I know I've seen a few posts where I could tell that the question was directed like from a man
Hmm.
toward another man, and then the women might get in there and
Hmm.
chime in, and it can get kind of, very opinionated. So I'm like, we aren't really supposed to be in here giving our opinion. And so I'll just kind of sit back and let somebody post something like about losing a job where I think I might be able to assist. And then, I've put something in there like that before. But in your opinion, for women, or even in your women's group where there are a few men, what's the best way for us to support one another so it's a productive conversation and not one where people get defensive or angry?
Yeah, that's definitely a great question. I mean, for me, I'm in a Black nationalist, Pan African mind frame, but I'm in the minority, so I need the Black woman. I need the
Hmm.
help. You know what I'm saying? And I understand that it should be a space for men only. So that's why we have the private group for men.
Hmm.
So, like you say, if your intentions are good, you want to just try to, make sure what you're saying is in support. If somebody doing something wrong, that don't mean don't, tell them to do the right thing. But like you say, you don't want to be argumentative because it is a mental health space. So for me,
Hmm.
if I go into the women's group, I would try to be more understanding that this is another Black person that done went through just as much as me, if not more. That's what
Hmm.
we can't forget. This is another Black person, and for me, that means something.
Definitely. Our channel is called Life After the Goodbye. So goodbye can mean anything. It could be the death of a loved one. It could be a relationship. It could be a job. I done a recent interview on weight loss. So every type of goodbye imaginable. So my last question is normally, what is life like after the goodbye? So I will ask you, um, what do you want things to look like from the members of your group after they've participated, or what is it that the takeaway, what would you like them to walk away with?
Well, I definitely would want them to walk away feeling empowered, feeling knowledgeable, feeling like there are people that care. There are people that can relate. There are people that can help. There are professionals in the group. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, there are opportunities to reach out to those people. And like I say, we have calls. It's an opportunity to, have that fellowship or that camaraderie. We doing a mental health retreat So it is opportunities to meet people and, do different things. So just take advantage of it. Even if you don't comment, I understand that you might not want to post and put your situation out there, but, try to observe and try to learn and then and also, pay it forward. Be helpful to other people if you can, even if it's just a simple thing like, hey man, keep your head up or stay strong or, I feel you, brother. Just try to be positive, and uplifting, and empowering because that's how I live, and that's how I'm able to do the things that I'm able to do. You know what I'm saying in life.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I will definitely make sure I post all of your information in the description for anyone who wants to join. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Um, if you can, if you're viewing, check out the group. Like I said, I got different groups. I got a public group for the black men. I got a private group for the black men. I got a group for the women, the veterans, the Christians, the LGBTQ. Just trying to represent for all the black people. But the main goal is to bring everybody together and work together. As black people worldwide.
That's a great initiative. So thank you for the work that you did and or you're doing, and thank you for being here.
Definitely, it's been an honor, and I thank you so much for being patient with me. I apologize about the delay.